Today is Monday, November the 1st, and this is your Mortgage Rate Watch. Not too much news coming today as far as economic data or anything being released. However, this is the week that is going to play out in history to be one of the most important. Obviously, we have the elections that are due this week. We also have on Wednesday the whopping quantitative easing report by the Federal Reserve. And then on Friday, not to close the week out on any sour note, but we also have the jobs report. So as far as a volatile week, as far as interest rates, we definitely don't know where we're going to end up at this time. It all comes down to how the market receives the comments of the Federal Reserve, what comes out of quantitative easing. Obviously, the impact of the elections and on how that's going to factor in with the Republicans or the Democrats and how government's going to side is also going to have a huge play in the stock market and will have influence on the bond market. What we do want to comment on is regardless of how everything plays out, it just seems like interest rates are going to stabilize and remain at these levels, and then we're going to have the patterns that we saw in 2009 where we had our peaks and valleys. And when you want to try to hit those low points and say you got one of the lowest interest rates in history, that all comes down basically to one thing: being prepared, having the right paperwork in line, having your application submitted, and just waiting. So one of the key stances that we take is have the loan fully approved, have everything ready, wait to pull the trigger on the appraisal, and then once that rate does come, lock in the rate, order the appraisal, and then you're off to the races. A lot of people, unfortunately, the clients that we're assisting even at this time, we're just waiting to see how that appraisal is going to come in and how that's going to affect the overall impact of the financing, the structure, the interest rate, the closing costs. There's a ton to play with that. So if you haven't given any of this consideration yet, take a look to see what your houses are selling at. Don't rely on Zillow or sites like Zillow and Cyberspace or Google, any of these places that give you any type of value. You really have to look at what's been selling in your area and what's been selling in your community. Don't pay attention to the national averages because that has no impact on our local averages. They say that Washington now is going through the biggest foreclosure boom. Well, keep in mind that Washington has always been a lagger, and there are hot spots in Washington. Unfortunately, pointing out one of them is Kent. It went through a huge, massive boom in new housing construction. There was a ton of financing done there in subprime, and unfortunately, now it's all starting to play out. However, it doesn't reflect the entire state. It doesn't reflect the entire county. We have to get specific and say, pay attention to what's happening in your community and what's happening in your areas. Yes, foreclosures do hurt the entire marketplace. However, we want to take the stance that we're not going to see what happened in California, where it took the entire state down. In Washington, we tend to be a little bit more conservative up here in the Northwest because people just leave us alone, media leaves us alone. But now media is really trying to hit us. Just keep in mind, it's just like when we talk about national averages as far as rates, we beat those averages. When you talk about national housing numbers, it's not as bad here. When you talk about unemployment rate, it doesn't seem as bad here because we do have a lot of industry. So keep it local. Keep it localized to your community to see what's going on in your neighborhood and really determine the house value that way. If you're unsure, it'd be even a great time to talk to your local realtor and say, hey, what is going on in my area? What are your thoughts? What are your concerns? And see what their comments are to really get a good grasp of what's going on in your community. Until this week really plays out, make sure to follow us on our Twitter page for any breaking news, but we'll definitely be back in touch tomorrow with more updates. Talk to you soon.